Good evening, fellow hunters. It's been a minute since I've made a video on Call of the Wild, hasn't it? Well, with the new map coming up shortly, shaping up to be another big one like Sundarpatan was last year, I figured it'd be about time for me to put out another hopes and predictions video for the new map, so let's get into it. You might notice my background footage is from Yukon Valley, and that was entirely intentional because I'm fairly confident that we're getting a Northern Canada map this time. With the snowy teasers we've gotten so far and the regions left so far on the main map with no reserves, I'm pretty sure of this. Heck, it could even wind up being a reimagining of White Rime Ridge from the Hunter Classic, if they want to go that way. What I'm really curious to know, though, is if this will be a permanently snowy map like Medved, or if it will change dynamically like Yukon and the northern half of Sundarpatan. We already know we're getting plenty of forest from the map teasers, as well as pretty hard evidence of a certain animal that might be about, but I'm hoping for the map to have plenty of mountains and potentially coastline to incorporate some of the animals I'm hoping we'll see. Speaking of those animals, I'm going to go through all the potential animals this map could have by class, and then at the end I'll put together what would be my ideal rosters of a 15 species, big new Arctic-themed Canada map. So, let's get to it. For Class 1, there are a handful of returning species I'd like to get out of the way first, those being the Harlequin duck, golden-eye duck, and rock and willow ptarmigan. I feel like any of these could fit into this map relatively comfortably, though I would personally lean towards the two ptarmigan. As for new Class 1 species that could be on this map, I feel like the two most likely ones are the snow goose and snowshoe hare. People have been asking for the snow goose for quite some time, and we all know that the Call of the Wild devs love to add their obligatory rabbit to each map. For some other bird species that could be on here, I'd like to bring up the American widgeon. Would be a pretty easy palette swap of the Eurasian widgeon, similar to how the Eurasian teal and green-winged teal were. I'd also personally like to see the spruce grouse turn up on one of our more northernly maps. And as for other potential waterfowl, we could likely get the long-tailed duck, the common or king eider, or potentially one of the three species of scotter on the screen right now. For Class 2 returning species, it would be very simple for them to just bring in the red fox, coyote, and bobcat, all of which are native to this area. Though I feel more likely that Class 2 is going to be entirely populated by new species. The ones that I'm leaning towards being most likely are the Arctic fox, Canada lynx, wolverine, and beaver, our little friend who has been most likely soft confirmed by the recent teases. There is also some potential for the Canada lynx to be a Class 3 species, but given it is smaller than the Eurasian species, there is also the chance for it to be a Class 2, just like the bobcat. Also potentially for Class 3, we have the pronghorn, though they don't particularly fit with the snowy vibe of the map and are pretty much only included here because they were part of the most recent survey, and they are a huntable species in Canada. Moving on to Class 4, we have the black-tailed deer and mountain goat. I'd be perfectly happy with either of them making an appearance, though I do feel like, from what we've seen of the map so far, that the black-tailed deer is more likely, and I'm going to say that I would honestly like to have here more than the mountain goat. Though, if there's a chance for us to get both, I won't turn it down. Class 5 is all sheep this time around, where we have the potential for the bighorn sheep to appear on a third map, potentially getting a remodel, though I think that we are much more likely to get the doll sheep and or stone sheep. Both of these are much more northernly species, which I believe would fit with the snowy vibe of the map much more. Class 6, we have all returning species. Those being the caribou, who was part of the recent survey and would make complete sense given what we know of the map so far. The mule deer, who was one of the survey winners recently, I believe for the new rack configuration. And the gray wolf, who I believe was the survey winner for the new pelt variations. Personally, I would lean towards the gray wolf because I'd really love to see what their new pelt variations could be, and I really think that their old model is due for a bit of a touch-up. Class 7 only has one species, and I honestly don't see it making the cut. The black bear was on the recent survey, and can be hunted in Canada, but we have the black bear on so many maps already that he's really only here because he meets the qualifications. This does bring up something that I would like to talk about though, because I would very much like for bears as a whole in Call of the Wild to get a bit of a behavioral overhaul, because I would very much like to see bears no longer being spooked off by significantly smaller carnivores like bobcats, and I would very much like for them to also be able to go aggressive like most of the other large carnivores can. It's always been a little bit weird to me that they are the only large predators in the game that always retreat from you. But we'll come back to that with a couple later additions on this list. Class 8, we've got the obligatory potential inclusion of the moose. The moose fits the theme of this upcoming map perfectly, but again, just like with the black bear, I'd kind of prefer it be passed over because it has been a headlining animal on numerous maps over the past couple of years, and I believe that there are other animals that are due for a second chance, much more than the moose is due for its 5th or 6th. And the returning animal that I would really most like to see on this map, not previously mentioned, is the grizzly bear. Currently only huntable in Yukon Valley here, I think the grizzly bear would be the perfect headliner for the behavioral changes to the bears, and they are the only bear left from the older days of the game that has yet to get a remodel, and I also believe that they, just like the wolves, do significantly need one. But also here in Class 8, we have the new species that I am most banking on being on this map, and that is the muskox. There is also potential for the muskox to be a Class 9, but if you look into them, they are significantly smaller than something like a bison in real life, though I could see them being both either Class 8 or Class 9. Speaking of bison, just like with the moose and the black bear before, they could be on this map, but I would much rather have something like the muskox fill their potential role. And in Class 9, we have 2 animals that I would very much like to see, though from rumors I've heard around the internet, they are likely deconfirmed from the map, which I think is a sorely missed opportunity, especially for one of them. The one that I was never going to get my hopes up for is the walrus. I knew a lot of people were wanting walruses in the game, and I could potentially see them being included in a way similar to crocodiles and alligators, where they lounge along the shores and retreat into the water, but I was never particularly sold on their inclusion. The animal that I will be very surprised if it's not on the map, however, is the polar bear. Like I said before, this map could be a spiritual successor of sorts to White Rime Ridge from the previous game, and the polar bear was the headliner animal for that map, so it would be incredibly surprising to get an Arctic map without this apex predator. And if they are on the map, I would like them to be handled in a similar way to how tigers were on Sundarpatan, where there are very few of them, and they are just as willing to hunt you as you are to hunt them, with polar bears being one of the very few animals in real life that will view humans as prey. Now, with all the animals that I see as potential species having been listed, I'm going to go ahead and give my hopeful roster for the map, given what we know so far. That will unfortunately be disqualifying the polar bear and walrus, since it does seem that they will not be included. For Class 1, I think that for returning species, we should get the harlequin duck, willow ptarmigan, and rock ptarmigan. And for new species, we should be getting the snowshoe hare and snow goose. For Class 2, the American beaver has already been more or less soft confirmed by the teasers we've gotten so far, and I would like to accompany it in Class 2 with the Arctic fox. For Class 3, I think that the Canada lynx would be the perfect fit to put in here. Class 4, I would love to see the black-tailed deer, either the presently existing Colombian blacktail or potentially the Sitka blacktail being added as a new subspecies. Class 5, I think that both types of thin-horned sheep should be added, those being the Dall and stone sheep. Class 6, I would love to see a remastered gray wolf and the caribou fill this slot. And then Class 8, I believe, will be filled in by the muskox and grizzly bear. So there you have it, my hopes and predictions for the new upcoming Hunter Call of the Wild map. Do you agree with my predictions? What animals would you like to see on this supposed Northern Canada map? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. And if you liked what you saw here, feel free to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. It goes a long way to supporting my channel, and lets me know that you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. So, until next time, rock on everybody!